The recent escalation between Israel and Hezbollah is the latest chapter in a long and bitter conflict that has shaped the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East for decades. Hezbollah, a Shia Islamist political party and militant group based in Lebanon, has been a thorn in Israel's side for decades. The group's influence extends beyond its military capabilities, deeply embedded in Lebanon's political and social fabric. Founded in 1982 during the Lebanese Civil War, Hezbollah, meaning Party of God, is backed by Iran and is considered a terrorist organization by Israel, the United States, and several other countries. Its creation was a direct response to the Israeli invasion of Lebanon, and it has since grown into a formidable force. The group's stated goal is the obliteration of Israel, which it views as an illegitimate entity occupying Muslim land. This ideology fuels its continuous confrontations with Israel, making peace a distant dream. Hezbollah and Israel have fought several wars and engaged in countless skirmishes over the years. These conflicts have left deep scars on both societies, with each side suffering significant losses. The most significant conflict was the 2006 Lebanon War, which lasted for 34 days and resulted in the deaths of hundreds of civilians on both sides. The war caused widespread destruction in Lebanon and left a lasting impact on the region's stability. The conflict ended in a stalemate, but tensions have simmered ever since. The border between Israel and Lebanon remains one of the most volatile in the world, with frequent flare-ups and a constant threat of renewed hostilities. The latest round of violence comes amid heightened tensions in the region. Both sides have been preparing for potential conflict, with military buildups and strategic positioning. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict continues to rage, and Iran is steadily expanding its influence in the Middle East. Iran's support for Hezbollah is a key factor in the group's resilience and its ability to challenge Israel. Hezbollah has also been emboldened by its involvement in the Syrian civil war, where it has fought alongside the forces of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. This experience has enhanced its military capabilities and regional influence. In this context, even a minor incident can quickly spiral out of control. The region's complex web of alliances and enmities means that any escalation could draw in multiple actors, leading to a broader conflict. The current escalation began with a series of tit-for-tat attacks, but there is a real danger that it could escalate into a full-blown war. The international community watches with bated breath, hoping for de-escalation but preparing for the worst. As the conflict between Israel and Hamas in Gaza raged on, international efforts to broker a ceasefire intensified. Egypt played a key role, hosting indirect talks between Israeli and Hamas representatives in Cairo. A proposed ceasefire agreement, based on President Biden's speech and a UN Security Council resolution, was presented. However, the fragile peace talks were dealt a blow when Hamas officials announced their withdrawal from the negotiations. This decision came amidst growing frustration over the lack of progress on key issues, including the lifting of the Israeli blockade on Gaza. Adding to the complexity, the conflict in Gaza became increasingly intertwined with the situation in Lebanon. Hezbollah, in a show of solidarity with Hamas, launched attacks on Israel from Lebanese territory. This development further diminished hopes for a swift resolution to the violence and highlighted the interconnectedness of conflicts in the region. With the breakdown of ceasefire negotiations, the international community expressed deep concern about the potential for further escalation. Calls for restraint and a return to dialogue came from various world leaders, emphasizing the urgent need to prevent a humanitarian catastrophe and wider regional instability. Tensions reached a boiling point when Hezbollah launched a significant attack on Israeli soil, marking a dramatic turn in the ongoing conflict. The region, already fraught with historical animosities and recent skirmishes, found itself on the brink of a larger confrontation. This attack, targeting a military intelligence base near Tel Aviv, marked a major escalation in the conflict. The base, known for its strategic importance, became the focal point of Hezbollah's wrath, symbolizing a direct challenge to Israeli military prowess. Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah revealed that the group had initially delayed its response to an Israeli assassination in Beirut to allow for the ongoing Gaza ceasefire negotiations. This decision was seen as a strategic move, aiming to balance retaliation with diplomatic efforts. However, the breakdown of these talks, coupled with what Hezbollah perceived as continued Israeli aggression, led to the decision to retaliate. The failure of diplomacy underscored the fragile nature of peace in the region, where one misstep could lead to widespread violence. The target, an Israeli military intelligence base, was carefully chosen. This base was not just a random military installation, but a hub of critical operations, making it a high-value target for Hezbollah. It was not a random act of violence, but a strategic strike intended to send a message. The precision of the attack highlighted Hezbollah's capabilities and its intent to challenge Israeli military dominance. Hezbollah asserted its right to target civilians while emphasizing that its primary focus remained on military objectives. This dual stance reflects the group's complex strategy, where military and civilian targets often overlap in the fog of war. This statement, while seemingly contradictory, reflects the complex nature of the conflict and the blurred lines between civilian and military targets. In such a volatile environment, distinguishing between combatants and non-combatants becomes increasingly difficult. The Israeli military confirmed the attack, but claimed to have intercepted most of the projectiles fired. This response showcased Israel's advanced defense systems, designed to protect its territory from such incursions. They emphasized the significance of the targeted base, highlighting its role as a vital military intelligence unit. The base's importance in gathering and analyzing intelligence made it a critical asset in Israel's defense strategy. This attack, the most significant since the 2006 war, raised concerns about the effectiveness of Israel's defense systems and the potential for civilian casualties. The memories of past conflicts resurfaced, bringing with them fears of a prolonged and bloody confrontation. Hezbollah's actions sent shockwaves throughout the region. The audacity of the attack reverberated beyond the immediate conflict zone, affecting neighboring countries and international stakeholders. The audacity of the attack, striking deep within Israeli territory, demonstrated the group's capabilities and resolve. It was a bold statement of defiance, showcasing Hezbollah's ability to penetrate Israeli defenses and strike at the heart of its military infrastructure. It served as a stark reminder of the volatile situation and the potential for the conflict to escalate further. The region remains a tinderbox, where any spark could ignite a larger conflagration, drawing in multiple actors and leading to widespread instability. Section 4. Global Alarm Bells, International Reactions and Concerns. The international community reacted with alarm to the escalating violence between Israel and Hezbollah. The United States, a staunch ally of Israel, expressed deep concern and urged American citizens in Lebanon to prepare for potential long-term shelter. The U.S. Embassy in Beirut issued a security alert, highlighting the heightened tensions and the volatile security environment. The United Nations interim forces in Lebanon, tasked with maintaining peace along the blue line separating Israel and Lebanon, called for an immediate ceasefire. They urged both sides to exercise maximum restraint and de-escalate the situation to prevent further bloodshed. Senator Elizabeth Warren, a prominent voice in U.S. politics, expressed deep concern over the escalating violence. She advocated for a halt to bombings, the return of hostages, and a focus on humanitarian relief and negotiations. Her statement reflects the growing calls within the international community for a peaceful resolution to the conflict. The international community's concerns are well-founded. The situation is highly volatile, and any miscalculation or act of aggression could have devastating consequences. The potential for the conflict to spiral out of control, drawing in regional and global powers, is a frightening prospect. Section 5. Life under fire. The human cost of conflict. The conflict between Israel and Hezbollah is not just a battle of ideologies or military might. It is a human tragedy that affects countless lives. Innocent civilians on both sides are bearing the brunt of the violence, caught in the crossfire of a relentless and unforgiving war. In southern Lebanon, Israeli airstrikes targeted villages, resulting in casualties and widespread fear among the local population. Lebanon's health ministry reported 3 deaths from these strikes, while the state-run national news agency condemned the attacks as large-scale air aggression, highlighting the severity of the situation. The airstrikes caused significant damage to infrastructure in southern Lebanon, further exacerbating the suffering of the civilian population, who are already struggling to survive. Homes were destroyed, businesses were shuttered, and essential services were disrupted, leaving many without access to basic necessities. The constant fear of bombardment forced families into shelters, their lives turned upside down by the violence, living in a state of perpetual fear and uncertainty. In Israel, the psychological toll of the conflict is also taking its toll, with residents living in constant fear of the next attack. The constant threat of rocket fire from Hezbollah has forced people to live in a state of anxiety and uncertainty, always on edge, always ready to run to the nearest shelter. Schools and businesses have been closed, and daily life has been severely disrupted, affecting the education of children and the livelihoods of many. The human cost of this conflict is immeasurable, with countless lives lost, families torn apart, and communities devastated. Behind the headlines and the political rhetoric are real people whose lives have been shattered by violence, each with their own story of loss and suffering. The international community must prioritize the protection of civilians and work towards a peaceful resolution that ends the suffering, ensuring that future generations do not have to endure the same pain and hardship.